Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty serious show for you guys here today that we definitely want you guys to stick around for. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, as all of you guys are fully aware, Stephen A. Smith is without a doubt the face of ESPN. There's no question about this, no two ways to say it. There isn't a bigger analyst on that network. And what that essentially means is that he has the most influence. He's the most popular one out of all of them there. So whatever Stephen A. Smith says, in essence, he's representing the brand of ESPN and the company that he works for, whether he likes it or not. People associate Stephen A. Smith with ESPN and vice versa. Now, as y'all know, Stephen A. Smith actually recently launched his own show. And his show is called the Stephen A. Smith Podcast or something like that. And, you know, he's been doing that, I guess, on the side. And he said it publicly that he has 100% agency over that platform. He controls it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a few days back, Stephen A. Smith interviewed former ESPN employee, also worked with Fox, Clay Travis of Outkick. And they had about an hour plus interview. It's still there on Stephen A. Smith's channel on YouTube, where they talked about a range of things. Now, for those of you who don't know, Clay Travis is the founder, or I think co-founder, of Outkick. And Outkick, I believe, was purchased by Fox Sports for an estimated $100 million, estimated worth of $100 million. Good. And Outkick tends to lean a little bit more towards the right, has a little bit more conservative views, and therein lies the issue, because ESPN tends to lean, towards the left. Now, during this interview, Stephen A. Smith actually asked Clay Travis, his general philosophy on sports media and basically talking about things. And I think he said some pretty interesting things there. So what we want to do is want to play a little bit of what they had to say, and then we're going to come back and really take this story further. Take a listen to what they had to say there.
She is one of the greatest women I've ever known. I would ask you, did that play a role, meaning the freedom to just say whatever it is that you want to say without having to worry too much about repercussions in a lot of people's eyes? Is that the number one reason you took this job?
I think you can't be successful unless you believe you can say exactly what you think. And I bet you would agree with this. Authenticity, I think, is the single most important thing in our business today. You may not agree with everything, but you have to believe that the person who's talking to you is to being as truthful as he can or she can on a day-to-day basis. So the reason why, I'll be honest with you, I was doing early morning radio, and I know you've had some experience with early morning
radio. Oh, Lord. Yes, I did.
I was getting up every morning at 4:15, 4:30 a.m. I was live solo 6 to 9 a.m. East Coast every day. And when COVID happened, I didn't take any days off. March, April, May, June of 2020, my audience skyrocketed. And Julie came to me after the late, great Rush Limbaugh passed, and she said, as much influence as you can have with this morning sports talk radio show, and you're doing great, you can do it for years and years to come. I am offering you the opportunity to take over the biggest radio show in the country. Most people would crawl on their hands and knees for this opportunity. You are unsure, because I loved what I was doing already. And one side of life lesson I have, Stephen A., is don't mess with happy. If you love what you're doing, don't be, constantly chasing something else. I'm very happy. But the opportunity, I mentioned my three boys. I started to think about the things that matter. It's great. I wish my Tennessee Titans one day would win the Super Bowl. I know you probably wish at some point that your beloved Knicks would win another NBA title.
Yes.
But our lives are not going to change if our favored teams win a championship. We're still going to show up the next day and talk about it. Whether or not schools were open during COVID, that mattered. Whether my kids are able to live in an America where they have tremendous opportunity and can hopefully, like every parent out there, I want them to be able to do more and have more success than I have, just like my own parents did. That matters. And that, plus the freedom to say whatever I wanted on any topic, was why I ultimately couldn't say no to it.
So you heard what they had to say. Well, apparently, this sit down that they had has been drawing a lot of criticism in the direction of Stephen A. Smith. And apparently, some of the people at his network are upset with him. And I want to read quickly from a New York Post. It goes, Stephen A. Smith defends Clay Travis interview after alleged ESPN backlash. Stephen A. Smith sent a message to everybody who was upset that he had Clay Travis on his podcast. Smith hosted the Outkick founder on his Audacity No Mercy podcast earlier this week, and the two opinionists had a wide-ranging conversation and including their thoughts on cancel culture and whether or not Donald Trump would be the likeliest Republican candidate to defeat Joe Biden in the 2024 presidential election. There was some backlash on social media and sports blogs to the idea that Stephen A. Smith, an ESPN talent, platformed Travis, who has been persistently critical of ESPN as a company and personally mocked a number of on-air talents who work there for skewing too woke. Now, what we want to do is want to play a quick, basically, response of what Stephen A. Smith had to say to the people that were critical of him sitting down and speaking to Clay Travis. So take a listen to what Stephen A. Smith had to say there.
The reaction to my conversation with Clay Travis, obviously a successor to Rush Limbaugh on his radio show. You got a lot of people that, writing stories and, alluding to problems because I sat down and had a conversation. These are the people who are a problem. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with Clay Travis. He has his opinions, I have mine. He expressed them cogently with clarity. You can agree or disagree. I have my opinions. That's what makes the world go round. That's what No Mercy's about. And that's what the hell it's gonna stay about. Let me be very, very clear. I talk to everybody. I don't agree with a lot of people or a lot of things that people say. I don't believe that's a reason to hate them any more than I want that to be a reason for them to hate me. Listen to what I have to say. If my points are valid, man up, woman up, and admit it. If it's still wrong and you believe that in your heart, then say so. We move on. Because that's what I'm going to do.
So you heard his comments. Here's my thoughts. Here are my thoughts. I want to quickly touch on what Clay Travis said at the beginning about the number one currency you have in this particular business is saying exactly what you think. I thought that was pretty powerful because what I've noticed is that there are a lot of grifters out there, right? There are a lot of people out there that say things they don't believe, but they know it will make them money and they know it will help them garner them an audience. So they say these things. They want to take the safe bet, even if deep down they don't really believe it. Like when I say I believe Kobe Bryant is one of the three greatest players of all time, I believe that. No one is paying me to do that. I'm not pandering to any audience. I'm saying that because I believe that. When I say MJ is the greatest of all time, I believe it. When I say I don't think the LeBron and Michael Jordan debate is close, I really mean that. I'm not saying that because I'm up here trying to piss people. I really mean what I'm saying. And I think that's powerful because it gives you a sense of freedom. But we also understand that you can't say everything you think, right? Especially when you're on the platform of people, when you're on platforms that you don't own, right? And I think that was what Clay Travis was talking about, just basically having the the autonomy and the freedom to just go out there and really say what you believe. And I think ultimately that's what people respect. Well, they may disagree with you, but if they're like, hey, this is what this guy really believes, you're going to find people out there that are going to side with you. But when people realize you're a grifter and you're just saying things to really feed a certain base, and all of a sudden you're going to lose a lot of people. That's the first thing. The second thing is simply this. If you don't understand the undercurrent of, let's say, Fox Sports or ESPN is a left-leaning platform, period, end of story. There's no two ways to say about it. You can understand this quite easily. Some can say the same thing about Outkick, right? I read a lot of their articles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think the issue here Stephen A. Smith is having is that he's like, okay, so what if this guy maybe may have some political views that are diametrically opposed to some of the things maybe some of the executives or some of the messaging at ESPN stands for. Therefore, I can't sit down and have a conversation with him. I should be ridiculed for doing that, to use what the article said, for basically platforming him and giving him a platform. Is there an issue? And number two, I thought it was his own show. Doesn't he have the freedom to interview whoever he wants? Well, apparently not, because he still represents a bigger brand. And this is what happens when you're generally annexed to bigger corporations that sponsor you. You generally can't really say what you really, really want to say. And that's the reason why the entrepreneurial route is always the best. Is always the best. I have zero envy for anybody working on television, to be quite honest with you. I have more respect for the guys that are out there actually making things happen on their own. Those are the guys I really respect, because it's harder. It's harder because you don't have the machine pushing you. But there are a lot of there's some pros that go with that type of mode of operation. So to me, that's where the backlash is. I wonder what's going to happen moving forward. Is Stephen A. Smith are they going to curtail the type of people or screen the type of people ultimately he's going to have be able to interview on the show? And if that's the case, then I don't really understand the whole purpose of having a show, because then it's not really your show. Right? It's not really your show. And I'll just be so disappointed if I had to come up here and say things I really didn't believe just because, in terms of like, okay, I think LeBron is the GOAT. And I don't really mean that, but I'm saying that because, well, I have to say that because my employer wants me to push that. That'll be crazy. I'm not going to do that. So it'll be pretty interesting to see how this thing unfolds moving forward. So what I want to know from you guys is simply this. Do you think Stephen A. Smith was wrong for speaking to Clay Travis? Number one. Number two, what do you think about some of the points that I made about the importance of saying what you think? Right? So whatever you guys think about this entire show that we produced today, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we catch you guys on the next one.